This is a Clouds Weather Alert.
Good Wednesday evening, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now with some very serious weather news happening right now toward the Fort Lauderdale area. A flash flood emergency remaining in effect here, folks, as things have just taken a very big turn for the worst here in Broward County. This is going to be a radar stream at first, as things had already ramped up to a pretty serious level, but now this is about as bad as it gets in terms of a flood potential here outside of storm surge in the state of Florida. So, again, we are very, very concerned about Fort Lauderdale right now in Broward County. If you know anybody down there, encourage them. They just need to stay off the road here in this type of situation in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Saying that here right now, I'm checking some different things behind the scenes right now. Gonna try to see what the NWS in Miami was just saying about this. They're saying the city of Fort Lauderdale requests that residents stay off the road until the flooding really subsides here. It's a really serious situation, folks, and this is about the heaviest type of rain you could see here, and it's just aggravating a scenario where they've already seen about a foot of rain here today. So nighttime heavy downpours on top of a foot of rain in a metro area. We're talking about worst case scenario outside of storm surge in a hurricane, folks. I know this is the first flash flood emergency, I do believe, issued in the state of Florida since Hurricane Ian. We were seeing some like around Daytona Beach there in Hurricane Ian, and now we have a flash flood emergency here for Fort Lauderdale, that area around Fort Lauderdale. The purple area indicative of the extreme downpours here, folks. I mean, I'll go to some of our 1 hour rainfall estimates. I mean, this is showing 4 inches in the last hour here in this area, and then it's got a storm total now. It's showing over 12 inches. It's way over our color table on this mode here, folks. That's why it's so just crazy looking, but I can query some of the things here on the screen to tell me just how much the radar is estimating is falling. So again, this is really bad stuff happening around Fort Lauderdale right now. We were showing you some of the traffic cameras here earlier on in the radar stream. I may go over to that here a little bit later on, just seeing how things kind of progress. I might even pop some of them up here in a moment, depending on how things go here in terms of the information we're getting in. But again, you can see right now, this is some very bad rainfall here. It's not just, if this was just falling for 30 minutes, that's one thing, but we've just been seeing this continue here, as we say, the last couple of hours here, just coming back in and getting heavier here right over some urban areas, folks. And this is going to be a matter of life and death here for the folks around Fort Lauderdale. You need to remember to turn around, don't drown if you're watching me from this area right now. This is really serious stuff here. I mean, these downpours are not relenting. They're unrelenting downpours here right now around Fort Lauderdale, folks. Again, looking at the current radar scan from about 9:02, you can just see very heavy downpours here right there around, it looks like South Miami Road over toward US 1 there, of course, I-95. So just all in around Fort Lauderdale here. You got a problem on your hands. You gotta really be paying attention here. I know we had some tornado warnings down here earlier. I haven't really seen any reports of damage from that type of the accident here. We have to watch for a local threat in our 62 counties here tomorrow, and we'll be watching that. That's why the logo is red. But right now, the moisture levels here are just at an extreme number right now in terms of just what we're dealing with in the southeast Florida zone. Hopefully, we don't get any type of rain like this around our region tomorrow, but this is kind of on the high end of things here for sure. We're not really expecting to get this much rain down here today. So, again, it'd be kind of unlikely to get this much towards some of our areas here up north, just with the overall setup here on play, but still may have higher numbers than we were initially expecting towards some of our at least coastal, east coast areas here. So just got to watch for the training of the downpours. Again, this right here, the red and the purple, indicative of about the heaviest type of rain you could ever see, because we're not getting like any hail mixing in. So this is really not good, folks. I am very concerned. This is not something we were necessarily talking about here either. I mean, it was a story in the Miami news. They've kind of known about the severe threat here today and the like there, but this is something that's really taken a turn to about the highest level of concern in the state of Florida, outside of like a strong tornado coming at you or a storm surge like what we saw during Ian. So we're really concerned here because this is just unrelenting. Sometimes I'll start a radar stream up for flooding and the rain will break down. This is not breaking down, folks. This is 4 to 5 inches that has fallen within the last hour or so. And the Weather Service says they just cannot emphasize it enough that this is an extremely dangerous situation in the Fort Lauderdale metro area, and people need to stay off the roads here. This is really serious stuff around Fort Lauderdale in Broward County right now. We do not want to see loss of life here, but this is something you rarely see down here, this much rain in this sort of a period of time after all the antecedent rainfall they've seen, and it being at night here on a Wednesday night. Folks, it's going about what they generally would do here, and now this is really impacting them. Some of those traffic cameras are showing a little while ago how bad things were out there. And I'll go ahead and check to see if we have some new views I can pull up for you guys right now. Let's go ahead and just see what's happening here. These views, I know some of the cameras are cutting out. That's something on the Florida 511 end. I think people are just really trying to get a look at the view. Maybe there's just so heavy of a downpour even that the signal's having trouble getting through. But we have one of the cameras up right now. This is going to be Sunrise Boulevard there at Northwest 31st Avenue. So we'll go ahead and take traffic full now, Florida 511 perspective, and you can see exactly what is happening here. It is a very nasty, if not dire, situation here for some of these folks. Not every intersection is in a dire scenario. This one here, it looks like people are trying to get through it, but some of them here, I mean, they're really in a dire scenario. Some of these areas, I mean, I even have cameras in, might even be more low-lying. And with this type of rain, this is almost historic levels of rainfall here in this type of setup. You're talking about really bad news. I know cameras cutting out. That's not on our end, actually. You see all the emergency crews out there. No doubt there's probably water rescues taking place here throughout parts of Broward County right now. Again, a very serious situation here in southeast Florida right now. This is really bad stuff happening in the Sunshine State. A catastrophic flood situation, as the Weather Service has put in, a matter of life and death here, really, potentially here toward this region. Stuff you don't see very often. I know they get flooding down there. They got it back last June, but this is now being at night with what we've already seen with a heavy downpour. There's no end in sight at this point for this isolated area here, so it's not good news. So let's go ahead and move away from the traffic camera for now. We'll go back to the radar. What's crazy about this even more so is if I zoom out here just a little bit, I mean, areas to the north and to the west here, it has not been that bad here in terms of the rainfall. I mean, even to the south to some degree, but they've had some flooding there around Miami, Hialeah. But storm total here, you see West Palm is about 1.5 inches here versus a foot around Fort Lauderdale. You see out toward areas there further west, I mean, a lot less. But even Broward County, I'll zoom in a little bit. You see around Weston only 2 or 3 inches there. That stuff you can kind of handle to some degree, but the stuff here, when you get in these polygons, especially this one here in the middle, it's stuff you cannot handle, folks. This is really serious stuff. I cannot emphasize how serious this is right now for Broward County, this area around Fort Lauderdale. If the rain starts breaking down, then we can start to feel a little bit better, but it'll still be rescues probably ongoing for a bit. But until this purple and red starts to really break down around Fort Lauderdale, they have problems on their hands there around Fort Lauderdale right now. I'm concerned we're going to see loss of life, to be quite honest, because I've already seen the pictures from earlier, and that was just there kind of on the edge. I mean, you could be in a life-threatening situation, but now if you're out and about, you almost would probably be in a life-threatening situation with this much rain coming down in this sort of a period of time on top of what we've already seen with it being at night here. So we're really concerned for folks. I-595 there, I-95, just going back here looking. It does seem some of the stuff from the south is moving north a little bit, so you see around Dania Beach there, it's starting to break down a little bit, so I just hope we can get some of the action to kind of move away here from Fort Lauderdale. But until that happens, we're going to have really big problems. I mean, we're talking about a really serious situation for Broward County around Fort Lauderdale. And now if you're up toward Oakland Park, you're in a flash flood warning. It's a radar indicated flash flood warning. We're not. His concern still, remember, to turn around, don't drown, but it's not as bad up there right now. Of course, some of this stuff's going to try to move up that way, but hopefully it'll break down. We saw stuff breaking down earlier, but then it came back in full force here, and we thought it would be a situation where it's one of those things, maybe some of the worst flooding of the year, but now we're talking about something worse than that here toward areas here around Fort Lauderdale. We are just so concerned for folks around Fort Lauderdale. I know there's life-threatening flash flood potential in that southern area too, but right in the middle is where we have the matter of life and death really being highlighted by the Weather Service. Again, till about, it looks like 11 o'clock at 8:50, they were saying local law enforcement reported thunderstorms producing heavy rain in and around the greater Fort Lauderdale area. Between 10 and 14 inches of rain have fallen. Additional rainfall amounts to 2 to 4 inches are possible in the warned area, and flash flooding already is occurring, of course. So that just kind of tells a story here. Some of the areas included in this warning, I mean, we're talking about Fort Lauderdale a lot, but there's other areas around here that could have pretty big problems as well. I know the flash flood emergency is also Hollywood as well here, but we have Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, Davie, Plantation, Sunrise, Lauderhill, Dania Beach, Sula Vista, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood International Airport. I've already seen some images. Just retweeted some a little while ago where we already had big flooding there earlier, but now it's at night and the downpours are coming down about as heavy as they have all day. So we're really in a bad situation here right now. So we have also the Ravenswood Estates, Melrose Park, Estates of Fort Lauderdale, downtown Fort Lauderdale, Washington Park, Broadview Park, Franklin Park, Port Everglades, Oak Point, Chambers Estates, and St. George there in Broward County. Again, this is a dire situation for folks around Fort Lauderdale based on the indications we're getting right now. Some folks, not everybody, can you see some of the intersections, they're not as in bad a shape as others, but I mean, with this amount of rain here in the urban area, I think we have to treat this as serious as it ever gets here with this type of wording from the Weather Service. So the stuff that just isn't moving there around Fort Lauderdale. The staggering numbers being reported there. I'm looking at some more information behind the scenes here, trying to get you guys the latest. Just really bad stuff happening around Fort Lauderdale here in Broward County. I mean, again, it's at night, so we kind of don't see the extent of the problems. We were hoping, again, we'd get out of this, but maybe a flood here about once in a year type flood, give or take. You see stuff here add up pretty bad, but it's not something that is catastrophic. But now the Weather Service is using the wording catastrophic here for this flooding around Fort Lauderdale. So we are really, really concerned here, folks. Again, this is going to be radar stream at first, but things have taken that turn here to about the absolute worst here in terms of stuff like this, in terms of flooding there from the sky, per se, in terms of precipitation. Of course, storm surge is a whole nother story, and this is not hurricane in terms of storm surge or anything like that. Don't get that confused, but it still could be life-threatening for folks here in this area. We really, really need you guys to take this seriously. I'm going to see if we have any questions right now from the viewers, so bear with me here as I kind of check some different things here behind the scenes. I know somebody's asking on Facebook how many inches today. Well, let's see here. So they just sent out a report, actually, the Miami office, and this is going to be the 24-hour totals, but they cut off here just a little while ago. But the highest amount today so far actually recorded by rain gauge is in Dania Beach, 13.92 inches. 1 mile south-southeast of Lauderhill, 12.21 inches. These are 24-hour totals, but I would assume we're all talking really about today here, and that's when the rain's really been coming into full force. But we're talking about Fort Lauderdale here, 11.09 inches. South-southeast of Fort Lauderdale there, 11.07 inches. The southeast of Lauderdale Lake, about 10 inches. So you can get the idea there. A lot of nasty totals, and this is rain. I mean, this is 4 to 5 inches of rain per hour, according to the Weather Service. And these numbers here from 20, 30 minutes ago, give or take, these numbers are going to just get really added on to exponentially here. That's problematic, folks. That's really not good. I mean, if you stop at those totals, that's bad. Some of those areas that gets life-threatening, no doubt. But when you get this amount of rain just poured onto that, you're going to have big problems. I mean, there's no way around it now. I mean, you can handle a certain amount of rain here, but now we're past the limit. As I'm checking some things behind the scenes here right now, trying to give you guys the latest information, I'm going to go ahead here and check right now on our information sources here to see if there's anything new. I don't see anything. Now, there weren't many power outages. I was looking this afternoon to determine if we needed to start a stream for the tornado warnings down there. We didn't have many power outages down in South Florida, and we do have 9,312 customers in the dark now in the state, but most of them in Polk County. I assume that's unrelated here. It's almost 7,000 there. So Palm Beach County only a couple hundred, Broward about 1,000, Miami-Dade a little less than 1,000. So that's poweroutage.us information. So hopefully people are able to get the word. At least it's not like a hurricane where you're without power, wind damage event where you're without power and you're not able to get the word out in the meteorology community. So let's go to the Florida view real quick here. On our viewpoint right now, you can see there's a little bit of a formal tornado risk here later tonight for some of our Big Bend counties, but that threat will increase tomorrow in terms of its coverage to pretty much our whole 62 counties. And of course, whenever there's a tornado warned storm within our 62 counties that we cover officially here in the Weather Center, we'll be on. So just giving you guys that synopsis there. But right now, the Florida story is really in focus here because we're watching South Florida with grave concerns for a very small area. I mean, look at the map. You're probably thinking I'm crazy here. You don't see much right around Naples or Fort Myers or up towards Stewart there, Vero Beach. It's not much. But then you get to the emergency area here, and the rain just continues to come down. And look at the last hour. This is over 5 inches in the orange now, according to a source here, a source that really estimates things pretty good. 5.5 inches in the last hour, and that's over a foot here. So again, some really nasty stuff there towards South Florida, toward the Fort Lauderdale metropolitan area. I know I'm looking at some different things right now. We have that low pressure in the Gulf. And we're going to have to be watching there tomorrow, of course, for maybe some tornadic storms in toward our local counties here based on what the Weather Service is saying. There's some different factors that are still a little bit a little bit iffy here and there. It's a really tricky setup. But, I mean, again, you see just the catastrophic flood potential right now around Fort Lauderdale there in Broward County. Again, just trying to see exactly what is happening. We're getting some more information in the chat right now, some different questions coming on in here, so we'll continue to check that here. But let's take a look at instability here. Right now you can see some of our surface-based Cape values are just hugging the coast here, allowing for this stuff to have enough energy to continue to form. That's why one reason why really that we're not seeing stuff spread as far inland. We'll go back to Florida view, go to 12 hours, and I'll take off the energy factor, and you can see how stuff's been more confined. I mean, we're talking about way more rain in southeast Florida, but in south central, I guess you could call it, I mean, as we're looking there toward like the Alligator Alley area and whatnot, we're only seeing an inch or two here and there showing up. So that's a far cry from what we're seeing there toward the Fort Lauderdale metro area. So let's get back in there tight again. That's your rainfall estimates over the last 12 hours. Now I'm seeing 14-inch estimates here. I mean, we already saw some total similar, so that's in line here, folks. But this is a historic situation for the Fort Lauderdale area based on some of the indications I'm getting. We're going to check traffic cameras again right now. So just gotta keep everybody there really in our thoughts and prayers that things are really, really nasty. And just gotta make sure people are warned. I mean, they have the information that they need here to take this as serious as it is. It's because it's a very serious situation. And the traffic cameras can kind of help tell the story. The Florida 511 visuals. We have another one, US 1 there at Northeast 21st Street there around Fort Lauderdale. I know the cameras are kind of cutting out from time to time. They must just be really being used a lot here across the weather enterprise, and it may just be an issue because of all the bad weather, the connections here even on them. So let's go ahead right now and go to traffic full. You can see here it isn't as bad maybe as some of them, but it's also when it comes in, it's a little bit clearer shot here of what's going on. So again, the Florida 511 perspective there. giving you that look right now. You see the water covering the road. I mean, that's not as bad as it could be, and I suspect there's some areas that are really low lying that we're really probably seeing water rescue type scenarios taking place. I would be really surprised if we weren't. I mean, that'd be miraculous if we weren't here because of the numbers of rainfall in terms of inches we've seen here fall in the last hour on top of what we've seen. I mean, there's just so much rain an area can handle here. And in an urban area at night, you're going to have problems. You've already had problems, but now we're just really putting them over the top, I would think, here, based on some of the different data we're seeing. Again, this is the view here. You're not supposed to see water over the road, obviously. Remember, turn around, don't drown. When you're in these type of scenarios, I know some folks are crossing and some folks will make it through, but there's some areas you might see where people can't make it through and don't make it through. So that's kind of the storyline there as we go ahead and come across here. Some more cameras. We'll go ahead and move away from this one for now. We'll go back to the radar view here. Let's go ahead and see what else we have. I'm checking here behind the scenes right now. We have, it looks like, another view here. It's showing slow moving traffic. Sunrise Boulevard, US 1 North. Actually, it's not as bad here as I would think it would be, but we'll go ahead and pop it up here anyway. There's other areas that are worse. It looks like there might be quite a bit of water to the left of the road. I can't tell for sure. And it's at night, so that kind of makes things worse, obviously. If you're unfamiliar with this area and coming on through, then you're going to have problems on your hands. So let's go ahead and pull this up here. We'll go ahead and pull this visual up now. I'm checking some information here right now still. So if you hear my keys moving here, that's what I'm doing right now, trying to effort the latest information in here. To keep you guys advised on what's going on. So you see there, that's not as bad as it could be down there. It looks like there may be some water on that other road there, a little bit more, that lower line road, but folks are getting through there. But I want to see if we can find some views here that are a lot more dire, because that's what I've been seeing here over the last little bit behind the scenes. But it's a one-man band, so I'm going to try to effort the ones I can here when I'm on and just see what we have. But again, some areas are not as bad off as others, but let's just kind of look around here. I'm going to look at some of them while I'm talking, so just bear with me here. See what we can find together really in the Weather Center with this nasty, nasty situation. So I'm going to try to move maybe closer to downtown. Yeah, that's not good. Okay, this is what I was looking at earlier. I mean, this isn't a situation where necessarily it's life and death for sure, but it's bordering on that here. As we look toward Broward Boulevard and Andrews Avenue. So let's go ahead and pull that one up now. You can see here the car is stranded. It looks like some of them at least stranded here on the roadway as we're looking toward this area. So again, just trying to give you this viewpoint right now. Broward Boulevard and Andrews Avenue, one of the more hard-hit spots. And keep in mind, the roads, some of them may look okay and be okay, but then think of the homes and businesses here that the floodwaters are coming into here, and that causes big problems, folks. No doubt. I mean, the roads sometimes can be higher up there than the homes and businesses. So keep in mind, we can't get the full scope here of the issues maybe until morning. So just kind of bear that in mind. But obviously, folks on the roads are having problems. I mean, it starts to remind me a little bit of that flooding situation we saw maybe about a decade ago out toward western Florida, the Panhandle I'm talking about there, the western Florida Panhandle. Where we had so much bad flooding around Pensacola. It's supposed to be a big severe threat that day, and we just had all the moisture concentrated there and aimed really. It was in April as well, if I do recall. It was later April or early May, somewhere around that time frame. I remember I was at FSU taking exams that week, so it's that type of sometime pattern that can really set up here and cause big time flooding problems. So just taking a look here. What's going on right now. Again, this is Broward Boulevard at Andrews Avenue. Some folks are making it through, but obviously you see it's not a good situation to be in here right now. So I know Weather Channel or maybe Fox Weather here, a media member will just say they're asking a question about a weather station, so how much 2 feet of rain there in Broward County. They don't know if that's accurate or not, though, but it's kind of interesting just to see. I mean, all this rain coming on down here, we're going to be seeing historic numbers, whether it's closer to 2 feet or a foot and a half here. You kind of get the idea. We're just going to be kind of seeing how things go. But again, this view is not something you want to see, obviously, here. Broward Boulevard there at Andrews Avenue. So again, let's go ahead and move away here right now. I'll go ahead and move away right now from this view. I'll see if I can effort some more camera shots here while we're doing this cut-in. Let's see what else we have in this type of situation. We'll go ahead and just look around here because some are going to be, again, worse than others. There's one angle here. I think I was doing this one earlier in a double box. Yeah, this could be Broward Boulevard at West 31st Avenue. And, I mean, the traffic lights are still working, but folks here are having a tough time getting by. Some are getting by somehow, but you got to wonder some of those lower line vehicles would really be having more problems. And again, sometimes the cameras are at the more populated and higher line intersections. There may be lower line intersections where we're having bigger problems we're just not seeing here. But look at the waves. I mean, it's unbelievable, really, to see some of this stuff live. This is live here, folks. Again, we're looking here at the traffic camera imagery. It's not a good situation to be in here right now in Broward County. So again, Florida 511 telling that weather story right now, trying to give you guys the latest on what's going on. It looks like some electric crews coming through, but again, it's a situation where we don't see a lot of power outages. That might just be a anomaly, but still, you can just see here how nasty. This is not a lake, folks. This is not a pond. This is a roadway here. A intersection that with a traffic camera view from it is one that has a lot of traffic. There's a lot of traffic now, and it's turning into a river, a pond, and you just gotta hope people aren't getting like confused by where the road boundaries are. They might be down the road a little if things aren't as well lit, for instance. They might be getting off there and think the road is where they're at, and they're actually getting there maybe into a ditch, something like that, and that can turn into a matter of life and death here. That's why people are being urged to stay off the roads here and toward this area. So again, let's go ahead and pull up our flash flood warning information right now. Again, just make sure you move to higher ground if you need to, and just turn around, don't drown if you're on the roads, and remember that the 6 inches of flowing water could knock you down. So even though you don't see a lot of water here, this is probably 6 inches worth, probably more than that. And if you got out of your vehicle then and tried to maybe get help, I mean, then you could have a problem on your hands as well. So again, a dangerous situation here right now. This is Broward County, Florida. If you're wondering where we're at, southeastern Florida here in the Sunshine State. Not a good scenario right now, though. Again, just we're going to go ahead and move away from this shot for now, but continue to effort use some more shots here. We'll go ahead and just be monitoring some of these views for sure, though, as we continue along with the special coverage for the time being. Again, this is that live view from Florida 511 here toward Broward County in southeast Florida. So just a lot of trouble on the roads there, obviously. Let's go ahead and check some information in the chat. They're talking here, and it's difficult to know for sure how accurate a particular location is, but there's some weather stations, personal weather stations around Fort Lauderdale also reporting around 20 inches, so it's certainly not out of the question with 5 to 6 inches of rain per hour. That with several hours of that, it could be now over 20 inches actually, even though the official reports or 14 or less at the official site. Some of these more isolated areas there, we could be seeing there 20 inches of rain having fallen today. A lot of that here in just the last little bit even. So that's why we're just so concerned, folks. This is something you don't see much. I mean, think now, this is not as bad as Hurricane Harvey, for instance, where they had 50 inches of rain. Now it's spread out a little bit more, but they had stuff like this on that Saturday night, I do believe, here. And then they had more, and it was a little bit different situation, but still, it's almost just with this area here being impacted, these type of numbers are really kind of just scary to think about. So again, we're starting to see a little bit of a decay on the radar. It's still not a good situation at all. It's still showing reds and purples, but we're not seeing as I back it up. You see how widespread that was in the current view starting to show finally, and for now, some decay. Now, if some of this stuff comes back in at us, then that'd be a problem. It's really been erratic in its movement. I mean, we had a tornado warning where the cell and the rotation was really just stationary, but right now we are still seeing heavy downpours, at least moderate downpours, though, in parts of Fort Lauderdale, which is still aggravating the situation, but the heavy downpours are where you're just going to potentially have a dire scenario on your hands, depending on where you're at. So, again, just checking to see if there's questions here. I don't see any at this point, but again, just continuing to check the latest information right now. I'm seeing any more cameras to show you guys. More Florida 511 perspectives here around Fort Lauderdale and Southeast Florida. I mean, some of these areas, again, are not doing as bad as I would expect them to do, to be quite honest, on these cameras, but I think we're not seeing the full scope of things because these numbers are really extraordinary. Talking about, it definitely sounds like, and the Weather Service thinks we could have 20 inches in some of these areas here, a lot of that fallen in a more recent time frame, and that's bad. I mean, you don't even have to be a meteorologist to know that. So let's go ahead and check some different shots here. I'm just, again, a little surprised that things aren't as bad on some of these camera views. I'm going to see if there's anything maybe I'm missing here even. I'm going to try to effort some different views in here as we're looking towards Southeast Florida. Again, there's only so much I can see on some of these cameras, but just the rain just keeps on coming in here. It just keeps on piling up here in this area around Broward County as we're live right now, continuing coverage on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm looking at some different things right now, I mean, we're talking about situations that we don't see even every decade in terms of rainfall like this toward this area. So I know there's some different people running some different things here. We're talking about it's not just a once in a 10-year flood, but something even worse than that now. So I'm just going to go ahead and see. It looks like somebody at the Weather Prediction Center actually here on Twitter, Peter Molinex there saying that this is past a 1 in 100-year flood now toward the Fort Lauderdale area. So in terms of the annual recurrence interval. So in a 6-hour period, this is something you don't see even 1 in 100 years. So again, that's really not good stuff. I mean, maybe even worse than that even, as we're kind of looking at some of our color scales here, maybe trying to surpass that at this point because that's from a few minutes ago. So again, not what you want to see down here, obviously, in a highly populated area at night. So again, looking here, just trying to give you guys the latest information on what's happening right now. I'm checking some of our different cameras, but at least a 1 in 100-year flood right now around Fort Lauderdale. Then, as we're looking right now in Broward County. So again, now that doesn't include storm surge or things like that. That's a different type of flooding. So don't get me wrong here. I don't want you guys to kind of take this in that this is not like Hurricane Ian and the storm surge that came through Southwest Florida, some of those communities, but it's still bad and it can still be a matter of life and death for folks. So again, I'm going to go ahead and look here at our flash flood warning safety tips again. I'm going to go ahead and pop those on up here just to kind of remind you guys of what we're talking about in this type of situation. So I know one of them is going to be talking about here, really, you just want to remember to turn around and don't drown if you're in these type of scenarios. I mean, you really got to be careful on the roadway. There's a dire situation for some. I know there's some information here that I'm just trying to kind of get an idea here. And it looks like some folks there, a media member there, talking how, and I want to make sure I credit the right organization here, so bear with me. Just bear with me for a second here as we're looking at some information in the chat session. So again, we're getting information in right now that would suggest that this is a scenario. Fox Weather meteorologists, they're saying that this is a situation where we could be approaching a 24-hour state rainfall record now. Now that's official, because I do want to clarify that though, because I know we had a record up toward, I believe, part of our area there, and they weren't really sure if they could verify it, so things got switched around a little bit. I'm going to check on that real quick. Our Florida state rainfall record here. I know we're a one-man band doing this all on the fly as we're live with you on this extended cut-in here right now. I just want to make sure. I'm going to see how our maps show on this. It'll be kind of interesting to see. As you can hear, maybe our computer is working a little overtime right now. So I'm just going to see our state 24-hour rainfall record, because there's a little bit of a dispute with this here. So I want to kind of add a little more context even what we're talking about there. So just bear with me here. I mean, some folks have that at only around 2 feet or so, that rainfall record. But again, we had a situation down one of our hurricanes, I think it was Hurricane Easy years ago, where we had closer to 4 feet. They weren't really sure if they could clarify that in terms of it being a confirmed type of total. So it may be something that's talked about here later on. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully the rain will just start to break down and we don't quite get there to any type of conversation about the most rainfall I've ever seen in the state of Florida within a 24-hour period. But again, let's go ahead and go back on over here right now. 1 hour rain, that's on over 4 inches around Fort Lauderdale. Storm total here over a foot, but again, we're seeing indications now that some areas have gotten maybe around 20 inches of rain here in the parts of Broward County. So that would make sense based on just the radar images we've been seeing. I'll go ahead and loop this a little bit. This goes back about 2.5 hours, and you can just see you really haven't seen much of a decay here until maybe the last couple of scans. We're starting to see a little bit of a decay now. Earlier on there was a little bit of that decay, but I'll zoom out and you can see how stuff trained on in and caused more problems here. Just adding to the issues that they're having, adding insult to injury here toward Fort Lauderdale in southeastern Florida. But you see the last couple of scans, we're starting to see a little bit of a weakening now. It's still significant and still adding on top of all the problems that they're seeing here. This rainfall definitely is. But we'll go ahead and go to that current view here. You see to the south, they're drying out for now. Still stuff offshore. We gotta hope this stuff doesn't come back on in on us, because it could try to do some weird stuff still. It's been doing weird stuff all afternoon. We've been monitoring it behind the scenes, tweeting some stuff out on Twitter there about the threat. But then around 8 o'clock or so, they dropped that flash flood emergency to the office in Miami, the National Weather Service in Miami there. Something you rarely see here in the state of Florida. I believe it's the first flash flood emergency in the state since Hurricane Ian, and where we had that flooding there around Daytona Beach. So that kind of adds context. That was flooding from rainfall there. Where Roy were talking about. I mean, we had some storm surge issues too, but it was more about some of the heavy rainfall coming down. So just kind of keep that in mind as we continue to effort some new details here right now. We're at 9:36 here on the clock. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center, trying to give you guys the latest information to protect you, protect your friends, protect your families. So as we have a really serious situation in parts of our state here, in parts of the Sunshine State in southeastern Florida. Again, a flash flood emergency here, catastrophic damage tag for the Fort Lauderdale area. Again, the Weather Service is talking about how you just need to see higher ground in these type of scenarios. So again, right now the heaviest downpours look like they're around State Road 84 there, Florida 84. I'm looking right now to see what else we have. Maybe we have some camera shots there that we can try to pull up maybe on that southern flank. I know Fort Lauderdale is a expansive area, so I'm not that familiar, honestly, with the geography of Fort Lauderdale, believe it or not. So I'm familiar with a lot of geography areas here in the state, but not so much with Fort Lauderdale. So I'm trying my best here to give you guys the views on these cameras here based on some of the radar echoes I'm seeing and some of the information I'm seeing coming on in. So bear with me here. Some of these cameras, we've just been seeing a couple of them really that have really been telling the story. But I gotta believe, let me check. I remember some of these down here with that potential tropical cyclone. Yeah, we're getting some problems there. I know it's gonna cut out a little maybe on your end, but it's cutting out. I apologize, but I'm trying to effort you guys the best visuals here. We have Broward Boulevard at 7th Avenue. We had that potential tropical cyclone causing problems last year. Gave me a little bit of a better look at the flooding problems there. But this here, with these totals anyway, these are really exceeding the totals we saw there as we got back toward last early June per se, somewhere in that time range, late May, early June. But we're going to go ahead and pull up traffic full right now. This is going to be Broward Boulevard at 7th Avenue here. Broward Boulevard at 7th Avenue, that Florida 511 visual. You can see folks really having trouble getting through. Some of them are getting through, but again, nasty situation on our hands here toward parts of southeast Florida right now. Again, trying to give you these views right now, these state of Florida views, Florida 511 perspectives, these live visuals here. It looks like it's cutting out some. Looks like that one car might be, okay, just cut out. It almost looks like we're having an issue with the power in one of those vehicles, which with all this water, it could be causing some problems, but it's cutting out on our view now. So let's go ahead and jump away from this, but that's the last view we got from it just a second ago. as we kind of give you guys that look there right now outside. So again, just coming back to the radar. We'll probably wrap this cut-in up pretty soon, and let's go back to the double box radar based on some of the radar trends here over the next little bit. So we're at 9:39 right now. As I continue along here, you can see around Riverland, that's where we'll get some of the heavier downpours. Some of the heaviest downpours are still falling over the most vulnerable areas, but some of them are falling a little off toward the south and west. But I mean, this just shows a color table. Again, I have it on a lower setting here, so obviously everything over 4 inches here is in the gray. So I know it's not a good color table, to be quite honest. But let's go to 12-hour, because this will be a better one for you. A better color table, we would explain it to you. So let's go to other source. Let's go to other source here. We're talking about in this yellow, though. This lighter yellow, at least 8 inches of rain. And then some of these areas here are showing closer to 16 on the radar estimates over the last 12 hours. So again, let's go back to Florida view. You see how it's been really confined with the highest totals. We have some of that stuff here, that cyclonic looked at things really. And we'll have to watch toward our local counties. You see some of our Florida Big Bend counties under tornado threat later tonight. But down toward the southeast Florida zone is where the big problems lie here. And look at our infrared satellite if we can. I'll go ahead and switch that on, and you'll be able to see some of those colder cloud tops down there where we have the classified emergency. It doesn't match up perfectly because of the displacement overall, but we'll go back 4 hours to be able to see that a little bit better. Even that, though, it's kind of confined. We're getting that training, though, that fence here, and that's obviously problematic. So let's go ahead right now and move away from that, though. There are some spotters down here experiencing some of this, it looks like, but as we go back on over to the current radar view, we have the flash flood warning for the flash flood emergency there right now. So let's go to the current view if we can. Go to live view, and you can kind of see here, that's the box there with the black and the maroon per se around that. So you kind of get the idea. Again, a potentially catastrophic situation where life-threatening flash flooding is occurring. Remember, turn around, don't drown when encountering flooded roads. Most flood deaths occur in vehicles. Be aware of your surroundings here, and do not drive on flooded roads. As the Weather Service is emphasizing all this, that this is an extremely dangerous and life-threatening situation, and do not attempt to travel unless you're fleeing an area subject to flooding or under an evacuation order. So again, a really serious situation around Broward County. I mean, so confined here, so isolated in terms of the problems here, just adding up. I mean, Miami, a couple inches. They had some flooding the other day. Monday, flash flood warning, and we had some flood advisories yesterday. But, I mean, 2 inches, I mean, that still can cause issues in Miami, don't get me wrong. And up toward Boca Raton, they're about 3 inches or so. But when you're talking over a foot of rain, closer to 20 inches maybe, in these areas around Fort Lauderdale, I mean, if this is happening over an area like Alligator Alley, that'd be a different story. But we're talking about Fort Lauderdale, where all the urbanization is, all that concrete, and it's at night here on top of already a foot or so of rain, getting 4 to 5 inches of rain an hour. I mean, again, it doesn't take a meteorologist to realize how bad this can be here for folks. Again, the cameras won't see all the homes where I'm no doubt seeing flooding. That's just going to be the case here. So they're going to be seeing flooding, some of those flood waters coming into them right now here, no doubt, around Broward County in southeast Florida. As we continue to effort the latest information right now, trying to give you guys the latest information that we can here. There's some videos coming on social media. Obviously, we can't show them to you on air, but I'm just kind of looking at some of them. There's cars stranded in the areas of Fort Lauderdale now. Again, these are just people from their high rises sending out videos. I can't go to them here per se, so it's not something that we're able to do, obviously, because of copyright reasons. Copyright reasons here, but as we've been talking a while, so I apologize if we're kind of stuttering around. Again, we're going to end this cut in here pretty soon if the rainfall starts to slack a little bit more, but we'll keep the stream going, obviously. So let's go to the view. It seems like the area and the cover to this, the aerial cover to this is kind of broken down some over the last little bit, but there's just all sorts of information coming out on social media right now. If my voice is thrown off, I apologize, but we're looking at our other source here to get some of this information. But I mean, the numbers are just incredible here. The airport there on Fort Lauderdale shut down because of what's going on here. It's hate to see stuff like that. It remains closed until further notice. the roadway traffic and to flights there as well. So not a good situation around Fort Lauderdale. One of the bigger trends here on social media right now because of what's going on. So again, big time problems there in Broward County in southeastern Florida. Again, we've been trying to give you guys the latest heads up, but some people sending out videos from high rises. Again, can't say this to you on the air, but you can look for them on social media on Twitter. Just type in Fort Lauderdale and you'll see them here. This just kind of tells the story. One of them in particular really telling that story that I've been seeing over the last few moments. So it reminds me a little bit of a hurricane there as it went up and toward the northeast back in 2021, I do believe. We've got so many lately, but it reminds me of that flooding here as we were looking toward areas around New York City. Where we had the storm just come through around southeastern Louisiana there, and it caused so much a devastation toward those regions there. But again, 2021 there, we're talking about being reminiscent to that there with what they saw in the aftermath of that post-tropical setup there with Ida. I mean, Hurricane Ida there, that post-tropical setup. Where we really just saw that rain come down at night there. There's highly populated areas. It is reminding me of that here now, folks, toward what we're seeing in some of those videos around Fort Lauderdale with cars just being stranded out. That's what I've seen here behind the scenes over the last few moments on social media. Again, there are going to be worse shots than what we can get with the cameras. It's just the way things are in general. The more areas with poor drainage here are going to be ones where we can't get the visuals out of as much in general because, I mean, we're talking about areas here that maybe aren't as heavily traveled per se, so they're not as worked on as well, even with some of those programs that may go into play with all the concrete around it already causes problems to begin with. So, again, just checking here, see if there's any questions from any of the viewers. I don't think so, but we're continuing live right now on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch with the stream. Even after I move away from this cut-in here, we'll keep the stream going, a double box, maybe even pop up more cameras, but at least have the radar going here for the next little bit until this really breaks down a little bit more here. I know there's some questions maybe about tornadic rotation there, which is interesting, so I'll go ahead and check that here real quick. I'll have to see if that has any validity here or not, but again, let's see here. Oh, yeah, there is. Look at that right there. It's almost unbelievable that we have a little tornadic rotation sign up right there near I-95. That's something. I would not have expected that necessarily. That might be, the meteorologist was asking if that's a debris signature here. They're looking off the terminal radar. I'm off to Miami. So they may have a tornado on the ground here around Dania Beach, if you can believe that. That adds a messaging problem here. Now, that's not in the perfect spot, but it adds a messaging problem because you want to be able to get at the lowest level for a tornado, but obviously you want them at the highest level for the flooding. We saw that in Harvey. It's a much lesser covered scenario that in terms of the spatial area than Harvey in terms of that impact. But still, my point being, it causes some problems here. As we're seeing that gate to gate, is that just a road? No, that's together there. I mean, it's coming in from the opposite direction. I mean, I'm really kind of surprised by that. I wouldn't have expected after this is breaking down like this to show a signature like this. But sure enough, coming in off there the coast toward areas around Dania Beach, and they're now going to issue a tornado warning here. 4 parts of southeast Florida, 4 parts of Broward County to be precise here, folks. So that's problematic. I'm kind of glad somebody mentioned that here because we weren't necessarily thinking that was going to come back into play. But I'll look at the terminal real quick. You can definitely see the gate to gate there right around the interstate. And let's check for debris here if we can pull that up on this mode. We may not be able to. I know there's some limitations to the terminal radars. But again, just got to be really careful here. Got to be really careful as we're looking at some different things. You can definitely see the gate to gate. And there's your tornado warning now. 4 parts of southeast Florida. This is a tornado warning for southern Broward County now until 10:15. I know it's in a tropical system that low in the Gulf, but it sure is acting like it with the impact here further away with all this, the parameters coming into play where we have a possible tornado now located over the Ravenswood Estates or over Hollywood, moving west at about 20 miles an hour. We're talking about Fort Lauderdale, Pembroke Pines, Hollywood, Davie, and Plantation here over the next few moments. Again, a tornado warning here It's just west of 95 around Dania Beach. So let's see if we can get a camera facing off toward the west here then. Let's go ahead and see if we can get a visual on that real quick. I'll effort that here. Bear with me. Try to get that in. Again, looking from Dania Beach here. Looking off toward the west a little. I know we have the other roadway in there as well. So let me clarify. That's US 441 there, and this is 95. So let's go ahead and see where we're at. Bear with me here. I'll see if I can catch a shot here. It's actually just pretty dark and dreary on the views toward the west, but toward the east here, that's looking southwest. That's not gonna be a good view. This one looks southeast. I'll take it. Let's see here. That's looking south. That's not gonna be a good view either. That's southwest. So I know there's a lot of cameras in here though. So just trying to see what I have here. There's a one-man band. So obviously it makes things a little bit more difficult. But again, this one's looking east, but it's kind of far away. I'll keep that one up here just in case we need to pull it up. But I'm not gonna go to it yet because we're in a situation where it's still a little far away, probably unless there's a lot of power flashes. But even then, it might not give you the best view. But let's go back over to the other radar because we can get a look at debris tracker here. If we have any type of tornadic debris around here on Dania Beach. Again, possible tornado adding insult to injury in this flood scenario. And that just broke up in that one scan, it looked like. That just kind of broke up there as it came in. I mean, honestly, that's not something you would really expect even as a meteorologist at this point with all this rain coming down here and it kind of showing a decay. To get this type of circulation to emerge, but sometimes maybe the grounds are so saturated it's acting like a situation where it's a water spout and it thinks it's over water still with the environment. So again, you can see here, that's the gate to gate a moment ago. It started to break up though in that latest scan, but still take your tornado precautions in here. This is a tornado warning for parts of Broward County, Fort Lauderdale, Pembroke Pines, Hollywood, Davie Plantation, but really over Ravenswood Estates. Moving there to the west at 20 miles an hour. You see Davie in the polygon, for instance, there. So we'll keep our eyes on it. I know some information they're talking about how it could take 12 to 24 hours for some of the water to completely recede. So that's not what you want to hear, folks. As you see some more of that rain, heavier rain coming up toward Fort Lauderdale there in Broward County. So it's still coming down to some degree here around Fort Lauderdale and parts of town, really heavy. So keep that in mind. We're at 9:51 right now, though. We're going to kind of figure out how we want to go along with the coverage here in just a second. You see another storm, by the way, with a hook on it off the coast. So that moves in. That'd be problematic. But it's kind of spinning around out there, it looks like here at this point. They're showing a nearly stationary movement with a severe thunderstorm. But again, there's a tornado warning here to the flash flood emergency, the reason we're on right now with this special stream. So again, just continuing along to keep an eye on the situation. What I think I want to do right now is we're going to go ahead and take a break here and go over toward our update slate here. We're going to do our coming up next update and break back in here with another viewpoint on things here from the Weather Center in about 5 minutes or so. So keep it tuned to the stream. We're back around 9:57 with more information. So keep it tuned to this weather stream here. Cloud Weather, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
This is a clouds weather alert.
Back here in the Weather Center at 9:57 on this Wednesday night. Again, a very serious flood situation continues around parts of Broward County. Flash flood emergency in play at about 11:15 or so. It looks like here as we're looking at different things. Officially to 11 o'clock here is the other one until 11:15. But you kind of get the idea. A dangerous situation. It definitely could get extended there past that 11 o'clock benchmark here. So just kind of keep that in mind. The timing with that doesn't necessarily mean something really too much at this point. But we're just going to continue to watch as we're looking at these scans here. You can zoom back on in right now, and you can see here the heavy downpours still as we're looking there in the Fort Lauderdale or the Dania Beach area. Just trying to give you guys the latest here on what's happening here at this point. Just continuing the effort for some new information here as the timeline does go along. Again, definitely going to have some issues with the drainage here in these areas, even for a longer period of time with this much rain coming on through here in parts of Broward County. So looking at this 1 hour rainfall total, we're talking about over 4 inches in some of these spots here, potentially based on some of the information we're getting in. Some of these numbers have dropped down just a little bit here. That's some good news, obviously, but still going to have to watch here. And your storm total, obviously, that's just problematic. We're talking about closer to 20 inches, it would seem, in some spots. As I zoom back, you see a tornado warning continues here. We were mentioning that a little while ago. It's weaker rotation here than it was when that first got issued. You can kind of see how tight it was there, even before it was issued here, honestly. As we're looking toward parts of Broward County, and then you saw the rotation now starting to kind of slack off some. But we have some other areas here of cyclonic accent, even, believe it or not. I mean, it's just kind of crazy here what's happening. Really just kind of facing areas. We're looking out toward areas toward the east. So just really not something you see very often here. And again, all that rain there with the extremely saturated ground, it's just not going down. And that's going to be getting, it's already getting, obviously, and it's going to continue to get into people's homes here in Broward County, going to get in maybe people's cars, going to get in businesses here. Obviously, another point here that's kind of interesting, I'll bring it up, is with the tornado situation here. I mean, you also have the flood situation, and they kind of clash with each other. I mean, people on the roads trapped in the flood water, then they might potentially get impacted by a tornado at the same time. It's possible we might have had something in the west. Let me see here, our correlation coefficient. I'm going to load this in here to see if we actually might have had a touchdown. It wasn't clear if it was co-located or not off toward the west here. But we'll go ahead. I mean, yeah, that looks like it could have been something there. Right around Dania Beach at 9:42. That definitely looks like that could have been debris here. As I look at that, the way that was wrapped up, kind of almost unbelievable how that popped up like it did. And I mean, that definitely could have been a tornado that went right through areas that were dealing with flooded waters here with people on the roads. So that could have caused more injuries here to people in terms of a tornado coming right on through here. That looks like that might be the first tornado touchdown today here into southeast Florida, and we didn't even have a warning for it when it was doing the bulk of the damage, if that is in fact the case here, based on my preliminary indications that I'm seeing within our Doppler radar scans. So let's go ahead here, looking at now over 12,000, almost 13,000 folks in the dark in the state of Florida, and we do have almost 4,000 now in Broward County. So that's a pretty big jump from when we were talking earlier. So it's possible maybe a tornado could have contributed to that, and with almost 4,000 folks in the dark there in parts of Broward County now. So again, not where you want to see the rotations weaken, but unfortunately, that tornado warning, it may have came a little bit too late. Not that it would have mattered if people were stuck in traffic. I mean, to be quite honest, but it looks like I might have had a tornado there develop on us, unfortunately, there and move through parts of Broward County. That's really problematic stuff. I mean, with all the folks just trapped on the roads there, again, with this flooding scenario. So just looking there at the debris track, you don't see anything now, but I'll back it up again. Right around there at 9:45, that looks like debris based on some of my indications here on my radar scans. Right around the interstate, folks. I mean, right around 95 there, around Dania Beach. Again, this was before the warning was issued here, unfortunately. So, again, looking there around Dania Beach, it's not something to necessarily expect in a flooding situation. We've had this much rain to have a tornado develop, but it appears, I'll go ahead and put my mouse on the screen here. It would appear, anyway, that we had a tornado touchdown. Hopefully it wasn't too strong, but it did loft debris, it would appear here based on some of our indications. I mean, that's more than likely what that signature would indicate. I mean, going back and forth here a little bit between the scans. I mean, I'll double check here. We'll make sure it's not inflow, but that didn't really look like inflow. That looks like that's part of the circulation there as we kind of move between some of the different views. I mean, you see there's your coast there, and this is the view from 9:34, and then about 9:37, we had that storm there, a rotation coming right into Dania Beach, really, and it looks like we had a tornado touch down there. So it's weakened now, which is good news. It could re-strengthen, but we're getting further away from the energy source, so that would probably kind of help that threat to relax some. But that's obviously a problematic combination here. So let's go ahead and go back on over right now again to the view here. That broad perspective, you can see that rain area from a couple hours ago has shrunken down a good bit. We have the other area off the coast. We'll make sure they didn't come back in on them down here. But again, you can see here we're talking about heavy downpours there around I-595 there in Broward County. So again, we're just checking some different things. So bear with me here. Try to give you guys the latest information, obviously, on what's going on. Checking some of my different sources here. So if my system's kind of running a little bit slow here, I apologize. But in terms of that stream, I might see something cut out on you for just a moment. But again, just try to give you guys the latest here on what's happening as the details come on out here from our different scans on the radar views. So again, a dangerous situation here in South Florida. This is Southeast Florida, Broward County. There's a tornado warning, but at this point it seems like the tornado that probably touched down, that circulation's weakened, but we're now talking about, I mean, even another area we'll watch off toward the west here if it starts to come back in at them. If it starts to move in, that'll be a threat for them. We'll have to just wait and see. But then we have the flooding situation, which is the bigger headline really, and towards some of these areas here in Broward County. So again, checking some more information right now. We're going to go ahead and see what's going on. Just bear with me. I know it's just crazy to see a tornado warning, flash flood warning at the same time. A tornado warning and a flash flood emergency here at the same time. It's just very, very bizarre to see. So I know just seeing cars floating there. I mean, based on some reports, so not what you want to hear, obviously. Let's just kind of see here what we might have on some traffic cameras. So bear with me here. I'll see if I can pull some shots in. I know we're just kind of working our computers really hard here because of what's going on right now. But it's about trying to give you guys the latest information on what's happening in this big time threat. So let's just see here what you might have on some of these shots. Again, it's kind of, we're having to take things here one moment at a time when we're pulling up these shots because it's a one-man band, as we've alluded to. But let's see what we have there. Broward Boulevard at West 31st Street. We'll go over to this one here now. Again, if you're just kind of tuning in with this flooding situation, we'll go ahead and take you to this full now. You can see here this shot. You can see the car really is having trouble getting on through. The water is not a safe situation to be in. Turn around, don't drown. That's really something you need to take heed of here in these type of situations like what we're seeing right now toward Broward Boulevard and West 31st Avenue. So again, they're just shot right now. It looks more like a lake or a pond than it does a roadway here in Broward County. So again, let's go ahead and move away from this right now. We'll come back over to our other viewpoint here as we continue along. I try to give you guys the latest. I'll see if there's some more traffic cameras I can pull in for you guys. So bear with me here. Just continue to track it with me. I know it pulls our system a lot to get these cameras in here, but trying to give you the best shots possible. I know cars are really having a tough time getting by in some of these spots. So let's see what else we might have here. I'm just trying to see where some of the biggest backups are even. It's just not a good situation. You want to stay off the road if you can here in this type of scenario. So again, let me see what else I might have here. Just bear with me. Bear with me as we try to give you guys the latest information to protect you, your friends, and your family here. We're just going to go ahead and check some more information out Again, it's more about the flooding than it is the tornado threat at this point. I mean, we did have a tornado that looks like touched down a little while ago, though. But at this point, it's more about that flooding. They have canceled the tornado warning. It just went away. So, see that dropping off the screen there. Again, a really, really bad scenario here in southeast Florida. Again, trying to see exactly what we might have here. Yeah, just again, I'm sorry if I'm kind of just stalling for a second because I'm trying to effort some information and maybe trying to get you guys a better camera shot even on what's going on here over the next few seconds. So, again, it's just really not a situation people want to be in here right now. As I'm trying to zoom on in on some of my maps here. Again, just making sure you guys stay safe. Remember, turn around, don't drown in these type of situations. That's something you really need to take to heart here at this point. I mean, this is really bad stuff. This is potentially a dire situation for folks here in some of these spots. So, you really cannot be messing around with this type of flooding. You don't want to mess around here with this type of situation when we have flooding to this degree. So it looks like here we have a view right now. I think we have Broward Boulevard at Andrews Avenue. So let's go ahead. It looks like somebody might be out of their car even. It's hard to tell. So let's go ahead and show you what we have here. This is a live view here on this Florida 501 perspective. Hopefully we don't have to show you anything too dramatic in this shot. But you see the cars stranded here. They're stalled out. It looks like at this point the water has just gotten too high on folks. So you see, let me put my mouse on the screen actually. Bear with me. This car looks like it's kind of getting stuck in the water a little bit. Now you see some folks maybe milling about, it would appear. So I just got to be careful. I remember 6 inches of water can knock you down here. Flowing water, that is. So again, really got to be careful here. This is just not what you want to see there. Broward Boulevard at Andrews Avenue. So again, just got to remember, turn around, don't turn. It looks like they're making it out of it okay right now, but you just never know in these situations. I mean, you could lose your balance. So it's a treacherous situation indeed here as we're looking toward parts of Broward County. Again, that's southeast Florida. I know sometimes it gets confusing in this state in terms of some of the different county names that start with BR. We're actually in north central Florida in the Bradford County area, and there's Brevard County, but we're talking right now about Broward County, the most highly populated of the three here, with a dire flooding situation ongoing. So again, a national story, a Florida story, and a big enough story to bring you here to all the viewers that watch Cloud Weather on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch here at this point. So again, you see the car stranded here in the floodwaters, Broward Boulevard at Andrews Avenue. And if you're wondering, this is live, folks. So let me go ahead and reiterate that. I'll put our live soup on the screen here just to kind of tell you guys that story again. Some folks are trying to make it through there, as you can tell, but other areas here of this road feature cars that are stranded here. Broward Boulevard at Andrews Avenue here in southeastern Florida in the Fort Lauderdale metropolitan area. They're seeing this problem here where it's just so important to remember, turn around, don't drown here. You see these cars again. You see some folks trying to walk through this right now, and it really can be tricky here, folks. You don't know how deep this water is. I mean, you got to hope at least somebody has a stick with them or something so they can kind of get an idea as they walk and see how deep it is in front of them, because otherwise you could really see a bad situation here develop. So you see that person there right now live on the camera here walking around in the floodwaters here. It looks like about knee deep or so as we look at this live. So that's problematic. Obviously, that's more than 6 inches deep. So just got to be really careful here in this type of scenario. I know sometimes you're in a spot where you can't help it. Just got to be really careful, though, obviously, here in a situation like this. So, again, Broward Boulevard at Andrews Avenue. The view here in southeastern Florida, a dramatic shot here from this region. So, you see some folks trying to get their vehicle maybe to work, but it's just not a good situation to be in. So, we're going to move away from this right now. I kind of don't want to keep it on here much longer because we'd have something really dire happen here if somebody really loses their balance here in these flood waters. So it can be kind of tricky to see where people go even at points. So you just got to be really careful here. Let's move away from this for now. But again, it's a really dangerous sight that we're seeing right now. Really dangerous sight. So let's go ahead and move away here. We got the live radar view up. It would appear anyway it would appear that we do have a situation right now where the rainfall for now over land is starting to really decay and its aerial coverage and weaken. That's good news. It's starting to weaken now. You see some storminess off the coast with rotation. It'll be interesting to see how that tracks over the next little bit. But again, a flash flood emergency does continue. Even if we start to see these rainfall rates slack off a little bit more, it's still a situation where you got to remember to turn around, don't drown here in some of these communities impacted by this dangerous flooding here in southeastern Florida. Looking back last hour, we're down to more like 3 to 4 inches in the hour, but still problematic. But then again, closer, I mean, we may be closer to 2 feet now in some of these areas with the rainfall amounts for today. I mean, 20 inches, we're seeing some of those numbers coming out, which is really problematic. So again, we'll go ahead and continue to watch things, but I think for now, and we'll watch that storm, see if it gets a tornado warning, if it tries to make its way closer to the coast down to the south. We had that area where we could have a tornado touchdown around Dania Beach over the last little bit in Broward County. I mean, we'll be seeing how that goes, but we're not planning to cut back into the stream here unless something really escalates on us here again. But we'll keep the stream going at least for a little bit longer with that double box radar. We'll kind of see how things evolve on us down here toward this part of the Sunshine State, obviously experiencing problems in that confined area. You see other areas not getting rain at all, and you're wondering what's going on. Why is maybe your programming getting interrupted, for instance, down there? What's because it's a dire situation for parts of Broward County. Again, this is a situation over the last 12 hours where we've seen closer to 2 feet of rain now fall, it would appear there in parts of Broward County. So again, let's go ahead and kind of get our loop ready, and I'll go ahead and send it back to our double box cycle for now. But if we need to come back into this, we will obviously and give you the latest. But this is on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and Twitch. You have multiple options here to continue to watch this stream. So just kind of giving you guys those details. I'll pop those up real quick, actually. You can see what I'm talking about there. May have to be on, more than likely have to be on tomorrow for local coverage here of severe weather towards some of our 62 counties here. So keep that in mind. Local coverage may be necessary here tomorrow toward our viewing circle. I mean, when it's a bigger national story or a bigger Florida story, but obviously when there's a local storm, when there's a tornado warning storm moving through any one of our 62 counties, we'll be on to give you guys the latest on the different sources there. I know it's always important just to kind of make note of all of them, just in case somehow something happens with one of the sites or one of the streams. But I know YouTube is one of the go-to places there. YouTube at Cloud Weather, a great source to go to. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon to be notified when we come on with a stream. But we're about to send this back to the radar stream for now here for the South Florida potential. There's still a flash flood warning until 11:15 just up to the north, but a flash flood emergency continues here to 11 o'clock. For that area there in the maroon and black. So again, just remember to turn around. Don't drown here in this type of situation. It's a really nasty threat, and I don't think we've seen the extent of it on our cameras, because I'm seeing information coming in that's more dire than what we've seen and what we've been able to show you on the air. So again, just keep that in mind. Some of these intersections, some of them may be a little bit more well lit. Other areas here, not as much so, and folks could be getting caught in a situation that really truly is, as indicated by a flash flood emergency being issued, a matter of life and death. So we're at 10:16 right now. We're going to get a double box radar back on the screen here, and we'll come back, go on here, cut back in if we need to, but otherwise, thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me for now. I'll keep the stream going, back if necessary for this stuff here, this dangerous stuff to the south, but our local coverage will be on here as needed tomorrow. That logo is red. We're in alert mode for a threat of severe weather tomorrow. Some flooding, some gusty winds, maybe damaging winds, but even isolated tornadoes not out of the question here. Probably in the weaker variety there. That weaker range. Seems like we had a tornado around Dania Beach here, Broward County, last little bit, based on some early indications. So that could be a sign of things to come for us, but hopefully we won't get as much of the heavier downpours and the heavier rainfall amounts, because these are just historic, but still could get a lot here toward the coast and spots here. It's going to be kind of hard to forecast, so be on your toes here. We'll be giving you the latest as necessary here. But for now, again, thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me.